You know, sometimes the strangest stories don't happen in dark alleys or courtroom dramas. They happen in the most ordinary places, like on a flight you think is going to be quiet, boring, just another ride in the sky. That's where this one begins. Picture it, a plane boarding, the sound of overhead bins slamming, people juggling coats and bags, that faint voice on the intercom calling out boarding groups. Everyone's just trying to settle in, right? Except on this flight, things didn't stay ordinary for long. I was in the second row of first class, aisle seat, hoodie pulled up, sunglasses on, trying to meld into the background. Not because I was hiding anything shady, but because sometimes it's easier to disappear when people assume you're nobody special. Inside, though, my brain was scanning every sound, every cough, every hurried step down the aisle. Years of training had sharpened my senses to a razor's edge. It wasn't paranoia, it was discipline. And then she arrived. You could hear her before you saw her. The sharp voice cutting through the chatter. "Excuse me, don't bump into me." God, some people have no sense of space. Heads turned. Shoulders stiffened. It was like a storm cloud had rolled down the aisle in heels. She was maybe mid-40s, hair sprayed into stiff waves, a purple dress that looked like it was sewn out of curtains, and a purse so sparkly it could have blinded someone if it swung too close. She walked like the entire cabin owed her space, and the second her eyes landed on me, her lips curled. "Oh no, no, no," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This can't be right. People like you don't sit in first class." Now, let me tell you, half the cabin froze. No one wanted to get involved, but every single person was listening. I stayed still calm, just exhaled slowly. She planted herself right in front of me, calling over the flight attendant with a snap of her fingers like she was hailing a cab in Manhattan. "This man doesn't belong here. Check his ticket." The attendant kept her professional smile, but you could see the strain. She took my stub, glanced at it, nodded politely, and handed it back. "He's exactly where he should be, ma'am." That should have ended it. But for people like her, confirmation isn't closure, it's fuel. Her voice rose, dripping with disdain. "Well then, standards have really dropped. I paid for peace, not to sit next to whatever this is." The cabin got heavy with tension. A guy across the aisle coughed like he wanted to break the moment. A young woman muttered in her earbuds, but nobody stepped in. I didn't either, not yet. Sometimes the smartest move is letting someone bury themselves deeper. She finally stomped her seat across the row, muttering, perfume so strong I could taste it. But I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Once we took off, she snapped at the crew for wine, a big one, and not the cheap stuff. She gulped it down like it was water, ordered another, then another. And with each glass, her voice grew louder, her insults sharper. "You think you're fooling anyone sitting there all quiet?" She sneered, jabbing her fork at her meal. "I know your type. You don't belong in first class, not near people like me." I turned just enough to look at her, my sunglasses hiding my eyes. She was flushed, swaying, pointing her finger like a dagger. The other passengers were restless now, some filming on their phones, whispering, shaking their heads. The tension wasn't private anymore. The whole cabin was in it together. By her third glass, she stood up, turbulence rocking the plane slightly, and shouted, "That's it. If no one will stop him, I will." Her fingers stabbed the air at me, like she was the sheriff of the skies. Gasps rippled through the rows. Cameras zoomed in. And that's when I knew enough was enough. I slid my sunglasses off slowly, folded them, and set them down. My eyes locked on hers, cold and steady. I rose from my seat, not fast, not aggressive, just deliberate, like gravity had shifted in my favor. The entire cabin went silent. She faltered half a step back, her wine glass trembling in her hand. "Sit down, ma'am," I said low and calm. Her bravado cracked, just for a second, but she tried to laugh it off. "Who do you think you are? Some kind of cop?" And that's when I reached in my hoodie, pulled out my badge, and held it where the light caught it. The gleam silenced her completely. "Air Marshal, and you just made a very serious mistake." The gasp that followed was like a wave. People whispered, "I knew it," or "She's finished." The lead flight attendant, emboldened now, asked me what I wanted to do. My eyes never left her. She's harassed passengers, disobeyed crew instructions, and endangered flight safety. Secure her. The attendants moved with practiced efficiency. She sputtered, "Wait, no. It was a misunderstanding. He provoked me, but it was too late." Restraints clicked around her wrists. The cameras captured every second, and the once dominant voice of the cabin shrank to pitiful mutters. The applause started small, a few claps, then spread, passengers whispering relief. Best flight ever, finally. I sat back down, put my sunglasses on again, and leaned against the leather seat like nothing had happened. Inside, though, I felt that calm click of closure. One storm ended, another always waiting. When we landed, the doors opened and airport security came in. No hesitation. They walked straight to her, swapped the soft restraints for steel cuffs. The sound of that click was final. She screamed, "Do you know who I am? I'll sue." But her words drowned in the applause that erupted around her. Phones lit up, capturing her downfall as she was marched off the plane, mascara streaked, dignity in shambles. I didn't move. I just let the show end without me as the star. Eventually, I stood, collected my small bag, and blended into the stream of passengers. Some leaned over, whispering thank you. A young woman said, "You were incredible. Everyone's going to see this." I just nodded and said softly, "Entitlement always exposes itself." I just let her do the work. Hours later, as I sat with a coffee in a quiet corner of the terminal, my phone buzzed. A message from my supervisor. "Good work. Stay sharp. Another flight tomorrow." I smiled faintly, tucked the phone away. The world was full of people like her, loud, convinced they're above everyone else. My job wasn't to humiliate them. It was to make sure they never endangered the innocent. And that's the thing about stories like this. They don't really end when the plane lands. The videos went viral. The internet laughed, debated, tore her apart. Some people said justice was served. Others argued maybe she was just having a bad day. But me? I don't measure justice in likes or shares. I measure it in silence, when the cabin goes from chaos back to calm. So let me ask you, what do you think? Was she just another entitled traveler who finally got what she deserved? Or was there more to it? Was it justice, or was it overkill? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who's flown next to a nightmare passenger. And let's hear where you stand. Because stories like this, well, they always spark a fight about what's fair, what's right, and what happens when arrogance finally collides with reality.